At the crucial moment, a soldier who had witnessed the last moments of Jesus, now elevated to the position of centurion, was accompanied by his comrades. With the grandeur of the earthquake and the series of supernatural events before them, something extraordinary happened. Fear and awe seized them all. In unison, they proclaimed with unwavering conviction, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Matthew chapter 27 verses 53 to 54, Amplified Bible. Imagine the scene. The centurion, whose duty was to ensure that crucifixions were carried out smoothly, was not only responsible for his usual duties but also for the command of hundreds of soldiers during this tragic event. A man who had climbed the ranks of the military hierarchy with courage and cunning, reaching the highest level of skill and efficiency. However, on that transcendent day, when he witnessed the climax of his career, the spectacle of Jesus' crucifixion overshadowed everything. Even a heart hardened by the rigor of battle and discipline recognized before that spectacle that this was undoubtedly the Son of God. This epiphany reverberated with the certainty that Jesus was innocent, relieving him of the accusation that had led him to that painful punishment. In that moment of intense emotional mixture, it must have been impossible for the centurion not to be flooded with a whirlwind of feelings. He realized that under his supervision, an innocent man had been crucified. The fearless hero of battle, the efficient executor of orders, found his humanity when he recognized the magnitude of the sacrifice that had occurred before his eyes. The words that echoed were not those of a frightened novice or a mere manipulated pawn. They were the result of a hardened veteran, a connoisseur of the countless horrendous deaths under his supervision. The centurion, accustomed to facing the grim spectacle of death in its various forms, was not there for a naive revelation. Jesus, suspended on the cross for an inescapable purpose, awakened in that experienced leader a whirlwind of complex emotions, an intersection of surprise and compassion. Those words that echoed were not fearful murmurs but considered conclusions from someone who had witnessed countless executions and sentences. He understood the fervent condemnation of the Jewish religious leaders who had orchestrated the crucifixion of Jesus on charges of blasphemy, an order that, as a soldier, he was obliged to fulfill. However, the centurion did not bow to blind condemnation. Instead, he raised his voice in proclamation because the arguments that supported the cause of Christ were overwhelmingly persuasive. It is worth remembering that this man had overseen a series of crucifixions, but something notably different happened in that singular execution. What did he witness? The moments of Jesus' trial, arrest, and crucifixion interwoven into an irrefutable narrative. The words that Jesus spoke in response to the injustice imposed by his own people, the arrests, the trials, deeply penetrated the centurion's core. In that singular moment, he witnessed the tenacity and passion of a man willing to endure such excruciating suffering for others. From that moment on, the centurion's trajectory would enter completely new territory. What had occurred to shake his foundations and instigate an inner revolution? The Bible narrates the plot, but the enigma surrounding this heart's transformation continues to intrigue to this day. This man, who had unquestionably overseen countless crucifixions, now stood before something extraordinary. The high priest, at that crucial moment, interrogated Jesus, asking, "Do you have no answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you?" However, Jesus remained silent. Then, the high priest continued, swearing by the living God, "Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." And with a firm and majestic response, Jesus declared, "Yes, you have said it. And more than that, I tell you, a time is coming when, no matter what you do to me now or in the future, you will witness my manifestation as the Son of Man, seated at the right hand of power and coming among the clouds of heaven." Matthew chapter 26 verses 32 to 64, Amplified Bible. Faced with such a statement, imagine for a moment how the centurion's reaction might have been. He, who had once played a role in the torture and suffering of Jesus, now found himself confronted with a transcendent message of power and divinity. And then, the governor's soldiers led him into the praetorium, where the Roman court was assembled. They dressed him in a scarlet robe, as if he were a king, and twisted a crown of thorns onto his head, as if it were a symbol of sovereignty. A staff was placed in his right hand, simulating a scepter. With irony and mockery, they knelt before him and hailed him as the "Hail, King of the Jews." They struck his head repeatedly, in a cruel farce. After these affronts, they took off the scarlet robe and covered him with his own clothes, and led him away to crucify him. Matthew chapter 27 verses 27 to 31, Amplified Bible. In these moments laden with mockery and humiliation, the centurion, who had witnessed and perpetrated countless forms of pain and death, probably contemplated a depth of suffering and dignity in the figure of Jesus that transcended his own experience. A landmark in this man's life, a revelation that would echo in the words he uttered at the crucial moment of the crucifixion. Let's contemplate Jesus' reaction in the face of this wave of contempt and violence, a dance of dignity in the midst of chaos. Imagine, a silent lamb at the gates of the slaughterhouse, challenging the very shadows that surround him. The sacred chronicles whisper, without recording a single word spoken by Jesus amidst the deafening cries of the crowd. However, the high priest incites the people, like a maestro of passions, guiding them to cry out for the release of Barabbas. And then, Pilate, the herald of decision, raises his voice, "And about this man you called a king of the Jews?" And from the depths of throats, a roar resounds, "Crucify him!" A resounding echo of the human heart. But amidst this frenzy, there is a transcendental gleam. Pilate's voice echoes again, "Why? What crime has he committed?" Yet an even sharper chorus prevails, "Crucify him!" The popular will tips the scales of justice, and Pilate, a player on the chessboard of the crowd, releases Barabbas. And so, with a gesture, he delivers Jesus into the hands of the soldiers, for the imminent martyrdom, as a final act. However, the darkest scene cannot rival the light that emanates from Jesus. While hatred and agony converge, Jesus weaves invisible threads of forgiveness. He, the rejected one, looks to the heavens and cries out, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." These words resonate through the ages, transcendental and eternal. Even before those who abandoned him, those who pierced him with nails of torment, and even before the centurion, the tormentor. His response is a cascade of mercy flowing from the abyss of humanity to the heights of the divine. They do not understand what they are causing. Words that echo, as the soldiers cast lots for Jesus' clothes, dividing his garments like a mournful dance of destiny. Jesus' concern is not for his own escape, but for the freedom his tormentors are unaware of. Amidst the dark spectacle, a powerful assertion resounds, a testament of forgiveness that transcends human understanding. In this culminating moment, forgiveness and compassion become the guiding stars of history. In the face of brutality, Jesus remains an unwavering beacon of light. In this unfathomable paradox, we are led to contemplate the overwhelming power of divine forgiveness, a beacon that shines even in the darkest hours of the human condition. And in the moment of crucifixion, when the cross was raised and the life of Christ intertwined with the rough wood, something extraordinary happened. Jesus' garments, in a final act of sharing, were divided among the soldiers who, with throws of chance, determined the fate of each piece. They sat, remaining vigilant, as sentinels of destiny, ensuring that no attempt at rescue could interrupt the unfolding tragedy. However, beyond this scene, something else was unfolding. And then, before the watchful eyes of those soldiers, something remarkable occurred. Creation itself responded. The earth trembled, and the rocks split apart, bearing witness to the impact of the death of the Son of God. Nature, which had been shaped by his hands, shuddered before the transcendent event. While human hearts remained unmoved by the agonizing cries of the Redeemer hanging on the cross, the rocks responded. They broke, cracked, as if the earth itself was lamenting the loss. Charles Spurgeon, an eloquent preacher, pointed to the dense darkness that enveloped the whole land, noting that the scriptures were being fulfilled. In the words of the Lord God, "I will make the sun go down at noon and darken the earth in broad daylight." The same people who once demanded celestial signs were now receiving them. But this sign was a shadow that obscured their vision. In this peculiar moment, when the hours of the day were supposed to be illuminated, a supernatural darkness descended. It was about noon, and the darkness would persist until the 9th hour, about 3 hours later. This could not be an eclipse, as the full moon would make such an event impossible. Divine intervention, swift and precise, brought this darkness that challenged even the brightest day. Thus, amidst the ashes of the crucifixion, cosmic and divine events wove a tapestry of meaning. The rocks, the unyielding symbols of the earth, mourned where human hearts remained cold. The convulsing nature echoed the impact of that moment. A supernatural darkness brought the weight of prophecy fulfillment, overshadowing the day in a somber symbol of the magnitude of what was transpiring. In that era, knowledge of the stars was limited, a rudimentary fabric of understanding. Creation itself seemed to rebel against the injustice inflicted on its creator, with the sun shrinking from witnessing the acts of the wicked. However, the darkness that enveloped that crucial moment carried multiple meanings. An intrinsic association with ancient times of mourning and sorrow, a shadow that hung over the death of notable men. Both Gentiles and Jews, readers of the time, could glimpse in this cosmic darkness a sign of deep significance. It was the somber prelude marking the departure of a king, a deep note in the cosmic piano of God's judgments. In that instant, tombs yielded to resurrection. The bodies of the saints, those who had fallen asleep in death, received the call of life. Freed from their cold graves, they emerged and entered the holy city of Jerusalem. An unusual and transcendental glimpse, a narrative that fit into the earliest miracles associated with Christ's death. These were echoes of spiritual wonders that would continue, spanning eras, until hardened hearts shattered and the graves of sin burst open. The resurrection of those lying in spiritual death echoed the call to life, an awakening of those immersed in transgressions and sins. They were resurrected into the New Jerusalem, the holy city. Charles Spurgeon, with his eloquent wisdom, observed, "Notice that only after the resurrection of Jesus did these tomb occupants rise and go into Jerusalem, where they then appeared. The lines between the natural and the supernatural were blurred, the boundaries of life and death blurred by the divine touch." And so, amidst the dark context of the crucifixion, a subtle light shone, pointing to an even deeper resurrection, a victory over death that would echo through the centuries. An assembly of women stood there, their figures obscured by distance, but their presences reverberated in a silent testimony. They had followed Jesus from the far reaches of Galilee, faithful and dedicated servants. Among them, remarkable figures rose. Mary Magdalene, whose name resonated with redemption. Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, with the courage and love of a mother. And the mother of the sons of Zebedee, namely James and John, whose devotion had weathered storms and continued to stand in the shadow of the cross. Whether the observer is a pagan like the centurion or a crucified criminal who, upon believing, was saved as Jesus hung on the cross, the essence remains the same. Those who find salvation, regardless of their origins, are redeemed through the sacrifice of Jesus on that cross. The work that began in that moment immediately echoed, enduring for 2,000 years, and the love displayed on that dark wood has touched countless hearts, including the hardened and weary heart of a career soldier, pulling him from darkness into the light of life. There is a saying that resonates eternally: the ground is level at the foot of the cross. In the first century, as in the present day, this principle endures. At the foot of the cross, a sacred ground where all, regardless of wealth or poverty, kneel. There, in the shadow of that wood that bore the weight of the world, they find equal opportunity to embrace the Christ who gave his life for them. Truly, he is the Son of God, the voice that echoes in the heart and finds resonance in the faith of those who hear and believe.